What's up, everybody? Welcome to my channel. My name is Lloyd. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, kindly subscribe to the channel and let's build the channel together. In this video, I'm going to talk about Docker containers, how you can deploy applications from a zero knowledge to real world application containerization with Docker. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. The number of people who watch the channel is more than the number of people who subscribe to the channel. And so I am begging you, kindly hit the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. So without wasting much time, let's jump right into the video. I don't want this video to be long. What if I told you that every application deployment nightmare you've ever had? So the phrase "it works on my machine," but it is not working on the server, or there's a dependency conflict, or there's a scaling issue. All these issues can be solved with just one technology. And this technology is what? Docker. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you how to use Docker to build and deploy real world applications from scratch. There is no theory involved here. We are going to be practical as much as I can in this video. So by the end of this video, you will have the knowledge to be able to containerize a production ready website, a Python web application, a multi-container full stack app, and then also deploy everything with one command using Docker Compose. So stick around, because in the next 20 minutes, I'll show you the Docker tricks that have saved me all these years of working in DevOps. Now, if you have any questions, put your questions in the comment section below, and then I will do well to answer all the questions. And also, before we build anything, let's understand what Docker actually is in 60 seconds. Okay, I said 60 seconds. Now, imagine you are moving houses. Okay, you could throw everything loose in the truck. So you just pack the things and then you throw it in the truck. Okay, now that's like a traditional deployment. You just pick anything at all that is loose and then boom, you throw it away, or you throw it in the truck. Okay, that's where traditional deployment comes in. Now, obviously, when you throw things away, the things are going to break. Some of the things will get lost on arrival, and basically some also will be in the wrong order when they arrive. Okay, or let's just say you pack everything in one standardized shipping container, and then you package it so nicely that even when it goes through customs, no matter what it is, that package will still remain intact, and then you receive it. And that is where Docker comes in. Okay, now let's look at the problem without Docker. Okay, so let's say you are building an application on your laptop with Python version, let's say 3.11, and then you also have some specific libraries and configurations. So you basically send, after building the app, you basically send the app to your teammate who has Python version 3.9, and then boom, something else got broke because of what? Dependency issues. So note your friend is using, the one who built the application is using Python 3.11, you are using Python 3.9. So there is difference in the Python version. Okay, now what is going to happen is that obviously this application is going to what? Is going to break. So you also deploy this application to a different server. Now, because of dependency issue on the server, the application what? Breaks. Now, this is where Docker comes in. Okay, the solution to this problem is Docker will essentially package your application, all the code involved, all the dependencies, and all the environment variable into a single container. So let's take a dustbin, for instance, a dustbin that you package all your waste and then you put it inside. Okay. Or you can say your laundry basket. So the laundry basket, you put all your dirty clothes inside. That is how Docker container is. So we package all the entire code and the entire application code, all the dependencies and every single dependency or environment variable that our application depend on. Package all of them into one container. Now, as soon as you run this package, okay, in a different environment, it doesn't matter the dependency, it doesn't, everything else has been packaged. As soon as you run it, boom, it starts running. You can run it on the cloud servers, your cloud servers, AWS, Google, DigitalOcean, any cloud environment at all, Alibaba Cloud, or even Google Cloud, Azure, everywhere it will be able to what to run. Okay. Now, what are some of the key concepts of Docker? Let's do this in just 60 seconds or 30 seconds. Okay. Now, you often hear the terms image, container, Docker file, Docker hub. What are these? Somebody may ask. So let's take it one after the other. Okay. An image or a Docker image is a blueprint. Okay. It's a blueprint. Now, this blueprint is like, let's put it in a recipe manner. Okay, let's go to food. Everybody likes food. Okay, now the blueprint here is like a recipe for your app. In this instance, a recipe for your food. All the components that you put together to make like or cook food. These are the recipes. Okay, now the Docker container. What's the Docker container? A Docker container is a running instance of the image. Okay, so in this instance, we can say like the actual meal that you cook from that recipe that I mentioned earlier. The actual meal you cook from the recipe. So if you have your bangkun and your okro, you have your eba, you have your rice and stew. That is the actual meal that was prepared from the recipe. By the way, I like bangkun a lot, so yeah. Now, Docker file. So Docker file is essentially the instructions that you use or the instructions you go through to build your image. And bear in mind, I said the image is the blueprint. So the blueprint here is all the recipes that you put together. Okay, so the Docker file have that blueprint and the step-by-step guide of how you are going to do the cooking. So if somebody is teaching you how to cook, they write all the steps. You put your onion, you cut your whatever. I'm not good at cooking, so that should be enough. Okay, now let's continue. So Docker file, that's the steps. Okay, the step-by-step guide you go through to build the Docker image and then finally running it into a container instance. Okay, so we also have Docker Hub. What is Docker Hub? Docker Hub is a pre-built image. It has pre-built images. Okay, and these pre-built images are like you take an npm package container, for instance. So npm package has like millions of dependencies or application packages that when you install, it creates a folder and then displays all those packages in the folder. So let's like this to an npm container. Okay, that is what Docker Hub is. Contains a library of pre-built images that allow us to be able to use these libraries to build Docker images. You will look at this when we look into this more when we are doing the demo. So, I mean, this is just everything you need to know about Docker. Okay, now let's build something real. Let's build something real. This video is going to be in multiple sessions, part one, part two. Part one is going to consist of the HTML static application Dockerization, and then we also do Docker. Part two will be Dockerizing a Python application, and then part three will finally be like how to write, like, let's just say put all these things together, okay, and then in one command. So we'll look at the Docker Compose file. So watch the video and practice. Don't just, you need hands-on experience in DevOps. So whilst you are watching the video, you need to what? Practice. So you set up your environment just like I have set up mine, and then what? Practice as you watch the video. Let's jump right into the tutorial sessions. We are going to start with the tutorials. So I'm going to launch the terminal and then quickly create a folder that will open in the VS Code terminal. We'll open in VS Code to start Dockerizing our application. So first of all, we'll change directory to the desktop, and then we'll create the folder. Then name the folder as Docker dash demo. Now we will open this folder in VS Code. So the folder is open in VS Code. We'll go ahead and then create our first folder. Because we are going to build series of applications, we're going to create folder for each of them. So this folder, we name it as HTML demo. Okay, so inside this folder, we are going to create two files. One will be for the index dot index.html, and then another file for the Docker, another file for Docker. So we'll create Docker file. Okay, now that we are done, so we'll go ahead and start coding. So what we will do first of all is to declare our HTML5 document. So we go with, so the doc type, so we type doc type. I think you have some doc type HTML. And then also we will go ahead and then close it. Then we can do the typing in it. So remember, if you don't know HTML, you can go back and learn your HTML. But this is Docker lesson. So let me get rid of this. Now you can go into the body of the HTML tag. So we start with HTML. So we have HTML. We define HTML. The next thing that we'll do is to define the head. So we have the head. Let me get rid of these things. Okay, so we've defined the head. We need to also close the head. So that will pretty much be this. Oh, okay. I don't know what's happening, but it looks like this is becoming. So we have the head. and then we want to close the head. Okay, so the head has been closed. Next is we will start typing. So we'll need a title. We'll need a title. So title is basically the title you see when you open any browser. So for instance, if you open this browser, you see we have YouTube. So Tech with Lloyd, that is the title I'm talking about. So every browser you open, every website you visit, you see this title that is displayed in the browser. So that's essentially what I'm talking about. Now we'll go ahead and then type our title. So what would our title be? So title, let me just fast forward this, but we'll change this to my my Dockerized site. So that would be our title. All right. So the next is to use some CSS to style our documents. Okay, our website. So we'll do style and then also close it. We first of all need to close it, then we can continue with the rest of the. Okay. So now that we've closed, let's define the body. So we are going to do some CSS. Okay, so some CSS to center the content and also style our pages. So we go with body, and then we open and close Curry Blaze, and then we have our font. What would our font be? Let's say font. So we define the font family. So you can choose any of this and say Arial, Arial, and then we're gonna align the text. So text align, probably be a center. So we can do text dash align, and then we'll say center padding 50. I think this is fine. So we can just continue with this one. All right, let me just move the body in here. Okay, no, that's fine. So we just leave it where it is. The next thing we'll do is to define a header. Okay, so on our website, you should be able to see a header with color and all of that. So in this instance, we will choose blue because I'm a Chelsea fan. So we choose blue for the color. So we'll choose color, and then our color. Let me see what color code can we use. Okay, 249. That's for blue. 2496 ED. ED. Yeah, this should probably be a blue. Yeah, we'll test this out and see if it's actually blue. Okay, so we have our, okay, so this is blue, as you can see, this is blue. So the next thing we'll do is to now define the body. So in the body, what we want to see in the body. What we want to see in the body. Okay, so in the body, we have body. Let's close the body as well. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is to define the header. So we are using a header so you can see, maybe we should get some some Docker icon. I have a series of icons on my machine, so let me just check. Okay, so probably use this icon and then just do hello from Docker. Okay, so that's our. And then we'll need to let me do this hello from Docker, and then let's close the header. So that would be this. Okay. Now we need a sentence. Okay, so in this instance we call it a paragraph. Okay, so let's do a paragraph. I think this has already these are already been written for us by chat. So I think we can just quickly go ahead and then do our thing. All right, so probably we'll change this text to something else that is nicer, not this default. So we can see this this website is running in a container. Okay. This website is running a container. Okay. So I think this should be it. This should be all that we need. The next thing is to Dockerize our application. Okay. So what we are going to do now, we define a Docker file. Okay. So we are going to Dockerize this particular HTML static website, and then we will run it on the website. Okay. So we will access it in a browser. Okay, so first of all, we define what we call from, and then we will specify the image that we need. Okay, so we are specifying Nginx, and we are choosing a very slim and very lightweight image. So we'll do it Alpine. Okay, Nginx Alpine. Okay, so what we just did is that the variable that you see here, okay, we call it the this is more like it starts with a pre-built base image. Okay, so we are choosing the pre-built base image, which is the Nginx Alpine. Okay, and Nginx Alpine or Nginx is basically a web server on Alpine, running on Alpine Linux. So it is super lightweight and only like 500 megabytes in size. Okay, so that's basically what we just did. Okay, all right. So the next thing we need to do, the next thing that we need to do from what we, okay. So I think I think one of the things that you need to always do is to ensure that when you are writing a code, you comment out every section of the code, so that in case somebody takes your code, they will be able to easily understand what you are doing and then also work on your code. Okay, so what we'll do here is to write a comment here and say we are starting with a base image. So start with a lightweight Nginx base image. Okay, so that's what we just did. Now the next thing that we need to do is to copy our code. Okay, is to copy because we are using Nginx. Okay, we need to copy our code to a directory whereby Nginx can easily access our code. Okay, so copy will take all our HTML files and then put it in where Nginx expects website files to be. And because this is a static website, we need to be pragmatic about our directory that we are going to put the files, the code files. Okay. So this will ensure that when Nginx is looking for those files will be available in that directory. Okay. So next thing we are gonna what? Copy. So you write copy and then specify the file. So we are going to specify the source file. So the source file will probably be what? Index.html. Okay, so that's the source file. Now that we've defined our source file, the next thing we'll do is to specify the destination where the file will be copied to. Okay, and the destination is this Nginx directory. So we'll specify the path. Okay, so we have user and then share Nginx, and then we'll specify the HTML directory. Okay, so we have HTML. Okay, so what you are seeing here is not magic. What is happening here is that we are copying our source file, and our source file is what? The index.html, which contains our code. Okay, everything that we want to see on the website. So we are copying this particular file. If you have, like, let's say, normal file, in some circumstances you can create a work directory. Okay, so in the container you can create a work directory. So let's say we can create a work directory and name the work directory as app. Okay, so inside the container all these files will be bundled into the app directory, and then when you go to the container, your first point of contact within the container is the app directory. And this, when you do ls, you are inside the container, you do ls in the app directory to list all the files for. But in this tutorial we are not doing, it's just a simple static website, so we are not going that route. The aim here is just for you to understand how Docker works. Okay, all right. So now that we are done copying our source file, which is this one, into the Nginx directory, the next thing that we need to do is to give our container a port that it will need to run on. So this port is where our application can be accessible. So in this instance, we are going to expose Docker has. Okay, I think I will need to comment this as well. So copy the custom file to the Nginx HTML directory, and then we also expose. So we need to expose port 80 to the outside world. So everyone who is trying to access the application will need to access the application on this particular port. So we'll do expose port 80. Sorry. Okay, so the Nginx container for the application will be running on this port, which will expose our application to the outside world. All right, so this is all that we need to do. In production and in more production environment, this wouldn't be a basic file because there are a lot of things. Maybe if you are using like a Python application, which we will see, you need to copy some files, install some dependencies here and there, but this is just a basic Docker file to help you understand how Docker works. Okay, so now that we've Dockerized our application, the next thing we need to do is to run and build the application. So let me just minimize this. So the first thing that we do is to use Docker. So we use Docker. Now, here is the thing. Okay, before you can use Docker, you need to install it. And if you don't install it, you cannot use it. Okay, so and there are two ways you can use Docker locally. One is to install Docker on your local machine, or the other way is to install Docker Desktop. So Docker Desktop is like a UI interface whereby you get to see like advanced features. I think I have mine open. So when you go to, so this is Docker Desktop, you'll be able to see like all the containers. So when we deploy the app, we build the application containers, you see them here. You also be able to see like some images here and there. So once we do that, you can send. Also, if you think if you want to use Kubernetes, you can use Kubernetes, which we are not there yet, but we'll come to the we'll come to that. We'll create videos on that as well. You'll be able to see the Docker volumes here. If your Docker file, your Docker container has what volume. So that is the how you can use Docker on your application. Okay. All right. So we are going to build the image. Okay. So we use Docker build. We use the command Docker build. This command Docker build. And then we are going to tag that. Okay. So we are going to tag the image with this name, the name that's so we can say Docker, sorry, Docker demo website. Okay. Or Docker website. Let's just do a Docker website. And then finally you bring a stop, a full stop or full stop. So what we just did is, first of all, we use a command in Docker called build. Okay, so build command. So the build command, what it does is that it creates an image from our Docker file. So it creates an image from this Docker file that we define here. Now you can see that I've typed some argument. So this is our build command, which is going to build the image from this Docker file that we define here. Now the -t that you see here, what it does is that it's going to tag the image, the image that we built from this Docker file with this particular name, the Docker website. Okay. And then the full stop that you see here, what we usually use it, we use it to we use the full stop to we use the full stop as Docker file or point to where the Docker file directory is. And in this instance, the Docker file directory is in the root directory. So it is easy for this application to be able to to see. Okay, so if we run this command right now, it will not work because we are not in the directory where we are not in the HTML directory where the application itself and its source code is. So in order for us to be able to run this command and be successful, we need to change directory into the main application directory where the application file. So let me test this right now and let's see what happened. So as you can see, it says building. That is giving us so you started building, but then it couldn't find the Docker file. So what did it give us? What error? It failed to build, invalid tag, Docker website, repository name must be lowercase. Oh, okay. So I think I made a mistake with the repository name. So we just, first of all, cd into the directory. So cd into HTML demo. So now we are in this directory. When we do ls right now, you see all the files. So these are Docker files. These are our source file as well. So let me rewrite this command: docker build, and then tag the image with the name. So we'll do docker dash website, and then specify the root directory of the file, or the docker file, which is, you use this full stop. So you hit enter, and then now our image is going to what? It's going to build. So as you can see, our image has been built successfully. When you look at it, it says what? Building image took what? 2.3 seconds to build the image. So you can see the status here, it says finish. And these are the processes that it went through for the image to be built. And now you can see it's a view build details what in this angle. So in this instance, what happens is that we built our Docker image. How do we know that we built our Docker image? We can do Docker PS. That's to be able to list Docker images. We can do Docker images, and this is the image that we built. Okay, Docker website. That's the image that we built. And you can see the tag, it is what's latest. We'll come to tags along the video, and then you have the image ID, and then the time the image was created, which is like 51 seconds ago, and then the size of the image, that's 61.2 megabytes. So that's the image that we created. Okay, so if you want to list Docker images or be able to see Docker images, you can use the command line interface. That's by typing the Docker images, and then you'll be able to see the, or you can use the Docker container, the Docker desktop UI. So when you go to images, you can see the image that we just created, which is Docker website. You see, it is not running yet there, so you can see it is currently offline. So we'll need to run the image to make it active. Let me delete this thing that I have here. I don't really need them. So see, a new container running. Let me remove this container and then remove this image. I don't need this image here. Okay, great. So that's one way you can be able to visualize your images, your containers, and other stuff. Either you do it on the CLI here, or you can use the Docker desktop to be able to. Okay, now that we've seen our image, the next thing that we need to do is to run the container, okay, from the image. So we are going to build an instance of the image, and that will be the Docker container. So that for the command, you use this command, docker run, and then specify. So we are going to run this in the detach mode. Okay, detach mode is, we want to do this so that even when we close the terminal, the container won't stop running. Okay, but we will test both. Okay, so that you can see the difference. I'm not going to specify the detach mode. Okay, but I'm just going to specify the port. So we are running this. We are going to map the computer port. We are going to specify a computer port and then map it to the container port or the image port, which is what, port 80. So in this instance, I'm going to use port 8080 and then map it to the container port, which is port 80, and then also specify the image. And the image, let's go back. The image is what? Docker website. So the image is what? Docker dash website. All right. So when we run this right now, the container will start running. So what we just did, let me give you a bit background of what we just did. So what we just did is that we first of all we first of all created a Docker run command. Okay, so we use a Docker. Docker has a command called Docker run. So we use the run command to start a container from our image. Okay, and for the D, I mentioned D earlier, which is like running the container in a detached mode. We'll look at it later. And then the P flag that I specify here means that we are doing port what mapping. So port mapping. So you're going to map your computer's port, which we specify as, you can specify any port. So we specify that as what? Port 8080 to the containers port, which is what? Port 80 on the image that we built earlier. And so once we do this, so the last argument you see here is the image. That's the image, the tag, the image that we tag. So we are going to run this and it's going to start the Nginx. So it is doing that from what Nginx. So as you can see, what is happening here, our container has what started. Our container has started running successfully. All right. Now, let's open another terminal so that we can see what we are talking about. If we do Docker PS, so that's how you check. This is the, if you want to check if containers are running, this is the command that you use. We use Docker PS and then hit enter. So as you can see, let me just drag this a bit. As you can see, our container is running. It has a container ID of this, and then an image name of what Docker website, and then the command that's the entry points command, and then it was created. The container was created 37 seconds ago, and then the status is that it is what up. In some instances, if the container is not running or it keeps restarting, you see the status here as restarting. It won't state as what up. And then we have the port number, so you can see it is open to what the internet or incoming traffic. And then we have the computer's port number, which we've ported to the container port, and it is the protocol is what TCP, which is transmission control, transfer control protocol, whatever it is. I've forgotten. So all right. So now how do we access our container? Or how do we access our website? To access our website, we go to the browser and then we do localhost. So let's do localhost port 8080. Remember, we port it to what? Port 80, the container port to port 80. So if you want to access the container, you have to be on what? Port 8080. So let's hit enter. So it says, welcome to Nginx. If you see this, blah, blah, blah. Why is our website not showing? We need to understand why our website didn't show. When we build the image, did we specify the, let's see what exactly happened. So from Nginx, Alpine, copy the index.html, specify the which is so we made a mistake to specify the wrong Nginx directory. So we are gonna stop the container. So we use the, if you want to stop the container, use the command docker stop, and then the image ID or the container ID. So we stop the container. Now that we stop the container, let's remove the image that we created earlier. We remove this image. Let's see, looks like something else is running that needs to be container. The container is not running, so okay, so let's remove the container first. Then we can remove the image. Okay, so that we don't have dead containers and dead images. Okay, so now that we remove the container, we are going to rebuild our image. We made a mistake with the path. So in Docker, you don't type user, but you use the USR code, which specifies. So in in the Nginx directory, we have the user, the SharePoint, and then the Nginx and HTML. So this is like the path where our source code will be stored. So this will be made available to Nginx. So when we go to the Nginx website, after we build our email, go to the Nginx website, we will not see this, but we'll see our website. So let's try and rebuild our image again. So in doing so, we would do docker build. So we use the build command, docker build, then we tag the image, which is T, and then we can change the name to, let's say, my dash docker dash website. Okay. And then hit the put us to specify that our Docker file is in the root directory and then hit enter. So we are rebuilding our image. So as you can see, it took just 1.1 seconds because the what just happened is that Docker has already cached some of the image layers. And so when we are building it, we don't have to like rebuild the entire image from scratch again. And so that is how come it was faster than the initial build time. So our image is finally built. We'll go ahead and then check our image again. So we can do Docker images. And then this is our new image that was built. And so we are going to run this Docker command, which will essentially run our image, build our containers from this image. So let's do that. So Docker run, we use the run command and then specify the port. So we are mapping port 8080 of the computer port to the container port, which is port 80. And then we'll specify the image. Then this image is, the image name is my Docker website. So my Docker dash website, and then hit enter. So let's see what's happening. So as you can see now, say ready to start up, shows you the Nginx workup processes. So our application is finally running. We go back and then refresh the page. So voila, here we are. You can see now our container is running. So we say hello from Docker. That is the title we specify here. So we specify this title, hello from Docker. And then this website is running on the container. So you can see the content or the body of the website. It says this website is running in a container. And I also spoke about title. So as you can see, the title here is my Dockerized site, which we specify in the title of the HTML document. So this is our title. So this is basically how you Dockerize applications and deploy. Now I mentioned that it is essential that you always run Docker containers in a detached mode so that when you close the terminal, it doesn't stop. Right now, what's just happened, if I close this terminal, our application will not be accessible. So let me just close this. Let me just close this and then reload the page. Let me see. Docker. So let's check if our container is still running Docker PS. Which one is this? About a minute ago, is it the same container? My Docker website. So there, okay, so let me just close this one rather. Okay. And then let's see. It looks like it's still running. Let me see. Docker PS. Did we specify the detach mode? No, we didn't. So why is the container still running? Okay, I think I know why. It is because we are not running it directly in the CLI mode with Docker running in the background as a daemon set, but rather we are doing that on the Docker desktop interface, which is still persistent, and so the container is not stopping. But yeah, like I said, it is important that when you are always maybe in a production environment, when you are doing this, you make sure that you specify that the container will run in the detached mode. And how do you do that? It is the same command. So Docker run, then you specify the D flag as detached mode, and then the ports, and then you can specify the rest of the argument. So it's pretty much the same thing. So let me just reread this. Now, how do you check for a container logs? Okay, so this is our container ID, which is running. So in order to check for a container, use the command called docker logs and then paste, or you can type. Usually this is a random string of numbers, so you don't have to, you can just copy and paste and then hit enter, and this will show you our container logs. So these are the container logs that we have. So http get request, get request, get request, get request, and because I'm using Mac, so you can see the system or the browser, that's Intel, Mac Intel OS. And so that's how you check for container logs. Also, yeah, let me bring back our image. Okay, so this is our application running in the Docker container. Very simple Docker file that we created. Okay, all right. The next thing that we would do is we are gonna Dockerize another application, but this time around it is going to be a Python application. Okay, we are gonna Dockerize a Python application. We're gonna write a simple Python code that will display hello from Dockerize flags. Essentially the same thing that we did with the HTML. But this will come in the part 2 of this video, because I want this video to be 30 minutes, but it is 42 minutes. So we'll continue with this in the next section. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, kindly subscribe to the channel. And there is so much to come on this Docker demo session. See you in the next video, and bye bye.